So we're going to see that it's time to cross over. And when God decides to do this, to allow them to cross the Jordan, it's at flood stage. And again, going back to when God decided to call Joshua and say it's time, he did it at the time that Moses had died, a time where Joshua would have been in mourning. And now he waits for the flood stage, the time where it would be the hardest to cross, to call them to actually cross over. And so just remembering that it's not our timing and that it will never make sense to us in the natural, but to just trust God and just go with it. If God speaks, just go with it, because God knows how it's going to turn out. He already knows. And so we're going to, if someone would read, and also this is the passage where the priests stayed there in the middle until everyone crossed over. And so just knowing that as leaders, we're going to be called to hold the faith for some people who aren't sure yet if God's moving. And we're going to have to stand strong and stand firm on what God is saying to us, because people are watching us. People in the church are watching us. People who have left the church are watching us. People who don't know the church are watching us. So we really have to stand strong. And so if someone would read for us Joshua 3:14 through 17.
So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest. Yet as soon as the priests who carry the Ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap a great distance away at a town called Adam in the vicinity of Zarethan, while the water flowing down to the Sea of the Arabah, that is the Dead Sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stopped in the middle of the Jordan and stood on dry ground, while all Israel passed by until the whole nation had completed the crossing on dry ground.
And if someone could start Joshua 4 for us.
Okay, when the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, "Choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them over with you and put them down at the place where you stay tonight." So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, "Go over before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder according to the number of tribes of the Israelites, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, 'What do these stones mean?' tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever." Keep reading.
Yes.
So the Israelites did as Joshua commanded them. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, as the Lord had told Joshua, and they carried them over with them to their camp, where they put them down. Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan at the spot where the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant had stood, and they are there to this day.
I'll pick up at verse 10. Now the priests who carried the ark remained standing in the middle of the Jordan until everything the Lord had commanded Joshua was done by the people, just as Moses had directed Joshua. The people hurried over, and as soon as all of them had crossed, the ark of the Lord and the priests came to the other side while the people watched. The men of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh crossed over, ready for battle, in front of the Israelites as Moses had directed. Remember, those are the tribes that have already been given their inheritance. And so it said they crossed over ready for battle. And those are those of us who are established in our purpose and we know what we're called to do. We're ready for battle. We've already been there. We've already done that. And in verse 13, about 40,000 armed for battle crossed over before the Lord to the plains of Jericho for war. That day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they stood in awe of him all the days of his life, just as they had stood in awe of Moses. Then the Lord said to Joshua, command the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant law to come up out of the Jordan. So Joshua commanded the priests, come up out of the Jordan, and the priests came up out of the river carrying the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord. No sooner had they set their feet on the dry ground than the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and ran at flood stage as before. On the 10th day of the first month, the people went up from the Jordan and camped at Gilgal on the eastern border of Jericho. And Joshua set up at Gilgal the 12 stones that they had taken out of the Jordan. He said to the Israelites, in the future, when your descendants ask their parents, what do these stones mean? Tell them, Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before you until you had crossed over. The Lord your God did to the Jordan what he had done to the Red Sea, when he dried it up before us until we had crossed over. He did this so that all the people of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God. So I want to stop there and open it back up again, because we're looking here at the move of God, the power of God. Everyone can unmute their mics, and we just want to discuss for a moment what God is calling us to. And again, I know that some of us know and some of us are seeing. For those who know, there are those walking. What do we see? And I am recording, so only share what you really want us to know, but what God has released you to share. But what do you see God doing with you personally? We can definitely see him moving in the world and things changing in the world. Pastors, hi, Pastor. I see a message popping up from Pastor saying that I think he's getting ready to exit. So we'll see you later, Pastor. But if anyone would like to share what God is doing and speaking into their own life, their own ministry, and Reggie mentioned with family dinner, that's something that he's going to carry out of this season into the next season. So do anyone else have anything they want to share about what God's doing?
I think God has me in these. I'm still seeking my place. I'm not as firm as some warriors. I'm still seeking. I'm still trying to find myself in the Lord. This time that we have right now has been the best time for me, because I wake up in the morning, I start my day with the Lord. In the afternoon, I stop and I start my time with the Lord. And at the evening, I do the same thing. And the thing is that that's helping me grow. It's helping my seeking, because I always said, and I know you people, I know you ministers have heard this before. When I came there to my church, I wanted to know Jesus for myself. Everyone around me can know him, but I want to know him. I want that personal thing. And this is time for me to get that. Ain't nobody at the table but me. So that's what I'm doing. That's how I feel.
Wow.
I know right now that what I'm starting to feel is actually a release into starting to starting to share and teach on, the desert place and the role that it plays in our spiritual maturity when we're a follower of Christ, and how that is a common process that God uses in our lives to help mature us for destiny and for purpose. So whereas I think a lot of people right now are feeling more hemmed in, I actually have been feeling God opening things up for me, to have the house ministry that Pastor had mentioned a couple of years ago on a visit here, that he could see a house ministry of prayer and Bible study going on, and just how we've all had to learn how to use technology to meet together, and how that plays very well into what God is and can do through me, and being able to reach people, even though I cannot physically, at least not without great effort, get out of the house. That this is an opportunity to maybe practice on my sisters and brothers, with an eye towards the notion that this same technology can be used to reach people that don't know the Lord, and be able to bring, in particular, I believe it's a ministry. He's given me a ministry of encouragement, to be able to encourage people to not give up, and to keep going, and to keep pressing, and to keep looking to God. So that stand firm, that part about standing firm in the Jordan, it takes some growth to be able to be the person or the people who are carrying the ark and are going to be able to stand firm while the other people continue on, like Sheree was saying, towards their destiny and their purpose. Their purpose is going to be in the promised land, but my purpose may just be standing in the Jordan and being able to stand firm. And so, it's, these things they're developing, but it's for me, it's been a very exciting time to see all your faces. I mean, these are your faces are faces I really haven't been able to see on a regular basis for the last decade, and now I can see you almost every day. So
and then she's gonna be like, we're going back to the
I know.
previous situation.
Yeah.
That's why no matter, even after this is over, we still need to have a virtual presence for people that can't be physically in the building. I think it's vital. It's important.
It is. And
like we have it in.
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, to back up what he was saying is, like, we have it in the home. We're doing this. Wonder if we could do it in the church, and you could travel, stay right there in bed, and go to a church via this media. Wouldn't that be something? You could just go.
Love it. I love it.
That's how we're doing.
Yeah, I think we have a new normal, and virtual presence is here to stay. It's not going away, and church can to adopt it or not. Some churches have always had a virtual presence in addition to their physical presence, and in the days in which we live, I think it's beneficial to have both.
Changing.
I think so too, and I think it would be. You don't want to give up meeting together when you actually can, but at the same time, it seems like a lot of the work that we spent doing at church, being in the building, like meetings that are basically planning meetings. Oh my goodness, what if we got into a place where we could just do some of those remotely, so that what we're really spending our time on is being out in the world. Yes. And ministering to the people that you are allowed to come within 6 feet of, or whatever, and actually be out in the fields more than we're in the house, so to speak. but definitely for someone like me who cannot get out, it's definitely an encouragement to be able to see my church family, and also know that there is now a more obvious avenue for how I can still walk in my call of, you know, having been ordained. That was certainly the first sign for me, was that God was like, no, you're still on track. You still, you know, I still have a call for your life. I still have a plan for you. And it just isn't going to look like what I thought or what I see all you guys able to do. You know, it's all right, because I'm me and you're you, and he has a plan for each of us, and a ministry. So
I certainly want to see the use of technology come to the forefront. I think that I know that many times after trying to battle to get to church for an hour and a half or 2 hours, for 6 o'clock meetings, and I would say, hey guys, can we meet online? I mean, can we do this? I do it in my normal work all the time. And I think that we go by way of the dinosaur if you don't make adjustments. That's done. And the time, and much of my work is the same thing. I've been trying to get people to do some things, and I tried to give it away for them for free. And they were up in arms and protesting and doing all this last summer. Now they're calling me and asking me to put together now that they got to pay for it. And they're going to pay. I tried to give it to them, but I just always wonder, when God said the gospel is going to go and be spread out across
all over the world,
I used to say, Lord, how are you going to do that? But we're getting a taste of how he's going to do it.
Exactly.
yeah,
He's doing it. And
look what God's doing now. Yeah.
I think, go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say, look at this virus in every country in the world. We don't even know how it got there. So yeah, it's gonna do that. Yeah.
No, so God can and will use anything. He's showing us that all this technology, he had to give someone the brain to be able to figure this thing out, how to do it. But you know what? No matter what, his word is going to go forth. We're a part of it. I don't know. I've got I told Cherie the other day, she said, and I don't want to get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it because it's my heart. I like virtual church. I'm going to tell you that right now. I love it. I'm not real good with, when you go to a church service, I'm not saying where there's just a lot of commercials. Feed me the word of God. I want to hear some praise and worship songs. I want prayer, and I want to hear the word. I brought a good friend of mine who had not accepted Christ one time, and it was, he finally came to church, but he was there from 11 to 12. He had to go. He ain't heard no word yet. Now there had been a little bit of prayer. I just try to make sure that in my little Sunday dinner, that if somebody's gonna get on there for 20 to 21 minutes, they're gonna hear the word of God. That's my thing. No commercial.
That's it. That's it.
I think that since
No
we've been
commercials.
having our virtual church, and here I am talking about Bethel, where we start at 10 o'clock and we finish up at about 10 minutes after 11. We do have prayer and praise and worship and ministry of song and ministry of the word and the offering, and we do it all in 70 minutes. So
Yeah.
it can be done, and
It can be done.
And you're not missing anything. Like I have not missed one part of the presence of God with that shorter service.
Yeah, we
I
had
think it just lets you,
that amount of time, so we all know it can be done.
I think it just lets you have a more compressed amount of time to get the word in, and make sure that there's no messing around. There's no other stuff. You come to the site to get the word, and then you're going on about your day.
Right.
And it shouldn't be all this other stuff.
And, at Bethel, most of our preachers generally do preach about 20 minutes. They don't go on and preach all day. So
Not anymore.
at Bethel,
That's right.
most about
20 minutes.
Not anymore.
Just saying.
Someone
Having a good time laughing
elbow.
at us. What's that all about?
He's like, I can't open up with this group.
Who, me? I opened up. You know, it's Cherie in her normal way. She said, Cherie, she called, like I said, I like virtual church. Now, you know, she's not going to make a comment pro or con. She just heard what I said and left it at that.
Well,
I will comment because last night I went to the Balm Virtual Church, and Kim's cousin was on there, and he actually has a ministry that is a virtual church. And then after I got off that Zoom service, I actually didn't feel good last night, and I was praying. I needed to get better for today. I was praying, and God spoke the name of a person in ministry that I really don't know much about her, but I've heard her pray before. I've heard maybe one message from her before. So I just typed her name into YouTube, and I'm like, I don't know why you spoke her name to me right now. So I was listening to she was interviewing another guy who I didn't know. So I'm really watching two people who I really don't know, but they're in the ministry. The guy started talking about his virtual church. When he started it, it was a group of church leaders that came to him and said, you can't do this. Church is supposed to be, so he said the leadership came to him and basically said, you can't do this. And his thing was, if he hadn't have done that, he was already established when all this happened. And so I'm like, okay, God, it's a virtual church. I hear what I see it. You know, I see what people are doing, and Reggie had already talked to me about that. So that's 3.
I know George.
To see what God's doing, Reggie. I don't have a view, but I'm on the side of God. So whatever he does, I'm on board.
My cousin, when he started his years ago, the pastors were talking to him about, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're supposed to assemble together. You're supposed to have a church, you know, in the building, and everybody's supposed to come together and everything. And he just kept going with his church. And now everybody's coming to him now. Hey, how do you do this? How do you set this all up and stuff? And so that's where he is right now.
Yeah. He says, I think we're coming together right now. I think there's 2 or more here,
Right.
Isn't there? Isn't there?
right.
Yes.
You know, it's the old way, traditional way of doing things. You know, I'm a senior. So, you know, yet I still embrace new ways of doing things. I think that if we just get caught up, we will miss the move of God because we are fixed on yesterday. We can't be fixed on yesterday. We got to know what God's doing for us today.
Right.
Well, and I just wanted to say, you know, about Bethel. Look at us, though. Look at us at 90 something years old. And the 7 people that started Bethel could never have imagined that at some point.
That's right.
And
No.
I mean, and Bethel continues
Never.
to stand. And so, you know, as we bring, you know, and I'm hearing Pastor Poindexter in my head about sometimes it's not either or, it's both.
That's
you know,
right.
and to the point that, you know, it was given, the word was given about Bethel that we would be a mother church, a model church, and a missions church. All 3 of those things can also be expanded through a virtual presence.
Yes.
So I really am excited for Bethel too, that there are, you know, that everybody has different needs, and that there will still be a physical building and, you know, and ongoing ministry for people who need hands-on, you know, ministry, and that there will be there will be an opportunity or an avenue for those who spend all their time in the cyber world. You know, somebody's got to get in there and reach those folks, and that potentially we could have maybe a youth ministry that goes out and sets up our seniors who are homebound so that they can, you know, go to virtual church, because we're really going to get that up and running. I mean, I've been waiting 6 or 7 years. We've kind of had stops and starts of being able to stream the Sunday service, and now it's being handled for real. You know, it's and it isn't just now a fringe thing for certain few members who can't show up anymore. It's for, as it was said earlier, this potential new normal that we're going to be in for a while. So I'm just excited that God, you know, there's, what is it, the new wineskin and the old wineskin?
Yes.
We're in the midst
Pour
of,
new
we're in the
wine
midst of
in the
seeing.
old wineskin.
Well,
It's
I
funny,
must say, since I
ahead.
am not there at Bethel, that is not a Bethelite program. It, as Cherie said, it's for Christians, and I am in the
Amen.
house. I am a Christian. And God has already shown me, just because of my life with John Edward Jones, that I have been so many places traveling with him that I had the outreach to other churches, other ministries, and that's what's going on now. I get to listen to so many messages, and I get to be a part of several.
Yes.
The Rock, I'm a chaplain with the Rock. I'm at Bayview, and I'm at I do the San Diego Rescue Commission. I'm not limited by a church title or name. And so I just appreciate to be able to, whatever my gifts are, which, you know, are prayer and reaching out to others, caring for others. I get to do it in multiple places. And people who don't go to church, this era is reaching to people who don't necessarily go to church, but they need to hear the gospel. And that's what it's all about. That they hear the gospel, that they know that Jesus Christ died for their sin. And so I just appreciate the freedom of being able to do that.
Yes.
I've been watching the preachers on TV, and a lot of people are getting saved by this same thing that we're talking about, you know, that are coming to God.
Right.
But then you know, I think it's a good thing. I think we ought to have a virtual ministry where we can meet online, pray online, and teach online. You know, it doesn't,
That's
I mean,
good.
I'm not saying not go to the church, because the church is a house of worship. So when we go to the house of worship, you know what we want to do? We want to worship. We want to pray, and we want to sing, and, you know, get filled. You know, and all the meeting stuff and all that we can do on the outside, and different ministries. You know, I'm talking about ministries, wedding ministry, all that. We don't have to come to the church to meet on that. We can meet right at home and probably get more done.
Right.
You know, especially for older people.
Yes, ma'am. That's right.
I think
Oops. Uh-oh.
that's where it has to be.
Well, that's the word, Reggie.
Yeah.
Forsake not the assembling of yourselves together, because then we get built up and we build each other up. But once you build up, it's not inside the walls. We have to go outside the walls. And I think while I was there at Bethel, we said that all the time. We got to go outside the walls.
Yeah.
And this is a time going outside the walls.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And this is another medium how to do it.
Yes, ma'am.